meeting was submitted by fax to the Spartanburg Herald Journal, posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of Town Hall, and on the town's website. We'll now have the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the people that's gathered here to do town business. We want you to watch over us and give us the wisdom to make the best decisions for our community. I want to thank you for the people of our community that's here to show their support for what we do. We also would like to ask for you to have your mercies on one of our council members who is grieving from a previous loss, precious child. We'd like for you to be with that family and watch over and protect them and let them know that you are Lord, and there's a reason one day they may know that they will be reunited with this child. And we also have a death in the community of one of our committee members. His spouse has passed away. We'd like for you to be with that family, watch over and protect them, and give them peace during their hard times of grief. And all these things we will thank you and give you the credit for. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a presentation from GMC.
That's last month's agenda. Are you looking at May 1st?
Do I, sorry?
Are you looking at May 1st?
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway. Okay, approval of the minutes. We don't have any citizens wanting, nobody wanted to speak? Okay. Okay. Approval of minutes, I need approval of minutes, April 3rd, 2025.
Motion to approve minutes, April 3rd, 2025.
I'll second.
Motion made and second to approve the minutes of April 3rd, 2025. All approved. Okay. Department reports. You have those in your thing. You have any reports there, Patrick?
Yes, I do want to hit just a couple things real quick. The only thing I really want to bring to your attention is number 7 on there. The town did receive the PARD grant, so the town ended up getting the $20,000 for the fishing pier. Previously, that we weren't sure if we were going to get that, but the state delegation for Spartanburg County really came through for us and took care of that. The next thing that's on there is I'm planning to apply for some funding through PARD. And these were items that are mentioned in the goals for the year: a wayfinding and gateway master plan, kayak launch dock, and a zip line design and consulting plan. And if y'all are okay with us moving forward with that, it doesn't obligate anything to us yet. It's just got to submit these. The way PARD is done is 80% is covered by PARD, 20% will be covered by the town, in which it would make sense that it would be covered by hospitality funds that are out there. But unless there's any objections, I'll go ahead and submit those applications. Once they come in, or if we're approved on them, then we will send them out to bid. And then you'll end up voting on to spending the dollars on there.
Anybody have any objections? We have, all that is in our master plan, and I would say, moving forward with that, I think we would be, good to do that.
Look at number 17, and we can talk about that at a future meeting, and I imagine we'll get some more information from Union Gas on that.
What now?
Item 17.
Yeah, what about it?
We'll talk more about it probably at the next meeting once we get more information from Union Gas,
Yeah,
but I just wanted you to be aware of that.
okay.
Question, on number 3,
Yes, ma'am.
is that just the parking lot where people pull in at?
Do you remember back when, it was a while back, and I remember us talking about this, it was when we were sitting back over here, there was a small little piece of parcel that is within the entire parcel of the T.W. Edwards Center that for some reason over the years was separated out from the whole thing. And so there was one little parcel inside of it, 240 square feet, no bigger than right here. And somebody else ended up owning it. So someone else owned that property and the town owned the rest of the block out there. And we worked with Spartanburg County to fix that.
So that's the, is that the parking?
At the T.W. Edwards Center,
Yes.
there is, basically, it's one parking space.
Okay,
If you look on a GIS map and zoom in on that parking lot that's on Sunset Drive out there, you'll see there's one extra parcel that was cut out inside the T.W. Edwards Center, and it went up for tax sale, and someone bought it. Not really sure what they were planning on doing with it. They asked the town to buy it for $30,000, and the town turned them down. And then they came back and said, let's just take care of this, and I think we ended up spending a couple $100 just to go ahead and make it part of the rest of the T.W. Edwards Park. It may have been like an old sign that was put there a long time ago, I don't know, but it was just it was a random little 240 square foot parcel.
also, number 20, what is BZA?
BZA is the Board of Zoning Appeals. There's a meeting on Monday, May 5th for a public hearing. There was a variance request for parcel at 401 Briarwood. If you remember, this was a property where there was a mobile home that was there. A tree fell on the top of it. It got removed. They sold the property to someone, and that person wants to divide that lot up into 2 lots. That particular area of town is part of R20, which means the lots have to be 20,000 square feet. If the lot is divided up, it would be, I believe, 15,000 square foot lots. And then it'll be a very narrow lot, so the house that'll be on there, it could look something similar. We can't approve it. I cannot approve it based on our zoning ordinance. And so they're asking for a variance and wanting to be able to turn that into 2 lots to put 2 homes out there.
Going that way, not this way.
Yeah, right.
That way.
Yeah. And they'll end up they'll be kind of close together, and it may, I think in our zoning ordinance, it's set up not to allow that because it could look like something that's on Brewster Street or Anderson. You've seen some of the homes there, in an area where traditionally you see much larger properties.
Well, and that's how the area is there pretty much.
Right.
It's backed up a little bit, but they're not that close together.
Right, and that's what this developer is wanting to do, is be able to divide it into 2 lots, to be able to do 2 homes on that property. And so the Board of Zoning Appeals has to overrule the zoning administrator's opinion saying that it should not be that way. But there'll be a public hearing. We put a sign out on the property. We've hand-delivered letters to all the property owners in the area. A few of them have contacted us, and we've kind of explained what's going on out there. But we're encouraging people to come to that public hearing and voice their concerns for or against on Monday at 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other? Okay. All right. Commission, you consider the appointment of Construction Board of Appeals and adjustments to the application.
Did y'all see it, outside of your packet, I had the code enforcement and the police chief's report on there.
Yes.
I didn't have any building permit report to give because I didn't get anything from CC&I. I imagine it because they just closed at the very end of this month. So when I have that, I can provide that for you. But you can see that there's several parcels that are on there that have been identified that are condemned, and we'll be going through the process of the condemnation with our attorney.
Okay. This is provided by CCNI.
That's provided by CC&I. That is their code enforcement report for the previous month.
I like this. I like this.
It looks like there's a lot on there, but you'll see the address on many of them is the same. There's multiple violations on one parcel. And most of the parcels that are on that list have been issued condemnation notices, meaning it's beyond where it needs to be, and they have two options. They can bring the property up to code, or the property has to be demolished.
And I'm assuming for this to be that many, that they have been in violation for quite some time?
Yes.
And
And it's not,
they've not,
if you look on there, there's about 6 or 7 that are in condemnation status on there.
and so have they not been given tickets and gone to court?
A lot of times with these situations, a lot of people just don't show up. So they're at a spot right now in terms of condemnation where we go in there, and if they don't fix things up, yes, we do go after them on there. We've had issues where people just don't show up to court. There are a lot of times there's people who don't live in town. We've got a particular property that's up on Walker Street that y'all probably seen that's been vacant for several years and don't know who owns the property. The property owner who's on the GIS records claims that they don't own the property. One of them's dead, the other one claims they don't own it. And so what I've done is taken that list of names from there and provided it to our town attorney, who will do background and all that kind of search to identify who actually owns these parcels, what's going on, and then we start that process of we notify them and we try to get them to fix it up or take care of it themselves, but if they completely just abandon everything, then we'll have to go in there and demolish the property, lien the property, and it'll potentially go for tax sale. And once it gets paid, the town will get our money back for the demolition. The town also has the ability they can give the property to the town, and then the town will take care of it, demolish it, and then sell it to someone.
Was this not something that should have already been done, like RCI, because they've been sitting there a while, as they have? And I know that even before we've tried to contact, I think this has already been done. This is like we're doing this work all over again.
A lot of it, so with CC&I, the way things were done is they went out, identified, posted that stuff, and then dumped it over to, or provided it for the town. And so the town had to try to go through the process of trying to identify all this stuff. And that was when we were doing hundreds of code violations on a regular basis. We just didn't have the time to go through that process.
So are we being serious about it now?
Yes, ma'am.
To stay on it consistently instead of just letting it drop off and then picking it back up and doing the same thing all over again? Because I know that after the attorney gets involved, I mean, I know there's so long after you send out letters, there's like so many days and then so many days and so many days that you have to wait until you can get things done.
Yes, we're making sure, and we're wanting to involve our attorney on there to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on the property, because we don't want to have a situation where we demo the property and if something wasn't done correctly, and then someone ends up suing the town. And so we want to give the opportunity for that property owner, wherever they may be, to be able to fix the problem, to address it, before the town steps in and demolishes the property.
Okay, and so to those people, what is the time frame there? I'm sure that which they've already probably been given before.
Right, we're notifying, and they have, I believe I've talked to the attorney to get the information on there, but I believe this first thing is, I think it's 30 or 60 days that we give them to respond. Then at some point, we put something in the newspaper. At some point, we put something on the property saying this property is set for demolition. Our attorney then goes through and looks when the property closed. We talk to that attorney to try to find somebody who owns this property, try to identify that person. Rarely do we get into, what we're trying to be able to do is identify who actually owns that property, make sure we know who that person is, and find them. The properties that we have that are in such disrepair are properties that have been extremely hard to identify who owns them, where they are, and how to get in contact with them.
I understand that. So even if we're still going to be in that little circle of still not being able to try and being able to identify what happens then?
Once we do everything that we can, I believe, and I would rather Mr. Frost come and tell you what is supposed to be done and what's not supposed to be done throughout this whole process. And I don't know, I have not gone through this process all the way to the very end. And so I would rather him come up and say, because I don't want to say something I'm not supposed to. I want to make sure that we're following the procedure, that properties get demolished, that the property gets liened, the amount of dollars that we use to demolish the property. And then once that property is paid for at tax sale, the town gets that money back. Or another option, there are some key properties that are in town that I would love for the town to be given. So someone may just say, I'm abandoning the property. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. I don't want to have to deal with demolishing the property. We're just going to give the property to the town, and it's your problem now. And you would probably say, well, why does the town want that? Well, there's a property at the corner of 150 and 9. It's an old gas station. That property right there was identified in our master plan as a project that we would like to turn into some type of commercial development. That's a property that it would be key for the town to acquire that property and be able to work with a developer to see that property turned into something great. Another property would be across the street from Hardee's, the one that's up in the woods there.
Yes.
That property is in a key spot. We've had multiple developers contact us and want to turn that into something much better. But there's a lot of heirs that are involved in that. There's a lot of just children who are working together to be able to work that through. But there are certain key properties that we need to get. Another one would be at the intersection of Jerusalem Road and 150. There's a
Old gas station.
the old gas station that
Brick building.
a tree fell on top of it.
No, that one.
No, you're at Jerusalem Road and 150. Four-way stop.
Did Pedro own that one where that little pink house used to be?
Come out the old styles.
Wilkins is a service station. It used to be
Is that
that.
little brick, yeah. This is brick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
Thank you.
Okay, we need, go on then is, we'll consider the appointment of Construction Board of Appeals and adjustments.
Motion to approve Chad Tessinger for the construction board. Appeals.
Motion made and seconded to approve Chad Tessinger as one of the candidates there. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Next one is Jeff Green, I think.
How do you say his last name?
Jonathan Odom.
Jonathan Odom.
Motion
I'll make a
to,
motion to approve.
second.
Motion made in the second to approve Jonathan Odom. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Okay, we got those two. Okay, unfinished business, we got considered second reading of ordinance 2025-04 to adopt a new zoning ordinance.
We'll start out here because we're going to talk about the map first. Thank you for having us here again tonight. After the last meeting, there were some suggested changes, and so I want to talk about those. We also were adding some properties that are annexed in and adjusting the boundaries a little bit. So I want to go through that because what we're asking you to do tonight is to approve the zoning ordinance document on second reading as well as approve the map on second reading. And so I passed this out earlier, so this has a sort of list of what we're going to talk about. So the first change on the map, at the last meeting, we had talked about the Dogwood Circle area and the prevalence of mobile and manufactured homes there. And so it was suggested that we change this area to the residential mobile home district. And so you can see where we've done that and added that on the map. Actually did a survey from the aerial photos and the tax records and to sort of look at the number, and there are quite a few that are located within several streets in that particular district. So we have made that adjustment on the map. We have a property here at 1170 Hammock Grove Road, which had been left off of the map, and so we added that back onto the map and zoned it heavy industrial.
Can you point to that on your, can you point to it?
Cursor there, yeah, right there.
These parcels right here. And I must have an old,
Yeah, right there where, it's not showing on that map, so that's right here on this map. And so we have that zoned as heavy industrial, we have B with the quarry and all that. I believe there is a house on it now, but the quarry owns that, and so, I think the quarry owned it, we decided to leave it as heavy industrial, not knowing any other future plans for it. So unless there's any objections or if you do any other plans for it, we would be inclined to leave it that for now.
the property had already been annexed into the town. The property was already part of the Riverbend development, and it was just missed during this process. And so,
On that list that we obtained the last time of all the addresses down through there, this one was left off, is that what you're saying?
This one had been left off the map, right, so we went back in.
Just left off the map.
And it just the town limits and added that parcel. And at the same time, this town limits actually go down the road to the county line, so we added that in on the map. There is an annex property down here at 176 that we added in and zoned general commercial.
that's the Edisto gas that was annexed in last year.
And then the property here at Allen Drive that we added in as R20 single family that had been annexed in. Two properties on Short Drive that we zoned R10, similar to the neighboring property here. And then, of course, we changed the town limit boundary line to reflect all of that. And then the last question that we had is right in here. So I guess it was this property over here has moved out here and has some acreage here that they now own, which was part of the quarry property originally. And so the question is whether we needed to rezone this to R20 single family to reflect the fact that they have a house on that property now.
So this is Donna Martin's house. The agreement that they had with Riverbend was when they purchased her property, that they would provide her 20 acres up the road to build a house. They have since then put that in place. Now, at that time, what we ended up doing was we left it as, there was a piece in our former zoning ordinance that allowed that to happen as the caretaker, a residence on the property to be a caretaker of the mining operation. But we are going to fix it once the new zoning ordinance goes into place. So that allows for long-term, for that to be an R20 residential property, instead of identifying her as the caretaker of the mine. She's not the caretaker of the mine. But our zoning ordinance only allowed a residence in that area if you were the caretaker of the mine.
Right, like a night watchman, caretaker of the property, that kind of thing.
So is that what it will be used for?
So
No, they changing it.
That's going to be her house, her full-time, so.
we allowed her to, so the mill gave her that property to build a home. For her to be able to move forward, we allowed her to be the caretaker on the property.
Not actually.
But not actually.
Yeah.
And now that we're redoing everything, redoing the zoning ordinance, we can go ahead and fix that and make it R20.
We would probably do R20 beside the property there.
For residential, okay.
And there are other residential properties right in the general area, so we would have no objection to that. I mean, that seems reasonable to change that and make that R20, so. So since the last meeting, there were also some suggestions about possible changes in the mobile home district section of the ordinance. I have not corrected them I have not changed them in the document yet, but I have listed them out here for you to review tonight and see what everybody thinks about them. So they're all in section 3-14, well, the first couple are in section 3-14, which is the residential mobile home district. And so the first requested change was to remove manufactured housing park as a permitted use in the district. So in doing that, what you would do would be to remove that line from that district, and so you could not have a quote-unquote mobile home park where you have, say, a 10-acre piece of property with a whole bunch of mobile homes on it, but not have any individual lots. What you could do still under that, it would still allow residential mobile and manufactured homes on individual lots. Somebody could come in and propose a subdivision where you had, certain lots that all met the same size requirement that's required for individual units, and you could do a subdivision, but they'd all have to be on individual lots, not just one common lot with individual mobile homes on it, not owning any property. So if you approve that, then that would remove the mobile home park from that language, but there is another way to do it, but people would own their own property, own piece of parcel of land to go with that.
That's on R10?
That is on, so that'd be the permitted uses, so it's it's on page 3-27, under the residential manufactured housing district. 3-27 is the page number.
Oh, 314, okay.
Well, it's section 3-14, but it's page 3-27, so, sorry. Right, my bad, sorry. So in this section 3-14 deals strictly with mobile homes, manufactured homes. So if you do that, that would strike that line from there. And as a result of that, on page 3-30, you would also strike the minimum lot size for a mobile home park. So, because if you don't allow a mobile home park, you don't need to set out a minimum lot size for that, So
you're saying to take out, so that would not be permitted, the manufactured housing park?
Correct. You could do it on an individual lot. So you have a single-family lot that's 10,000 square feet that's zoned mobile home park. You could do an individual unit, or if you have 10 acres that you want to subdivide into individual lots, you can still do a mobile home subdivision, but it would not be a mobile home, sort of a traditional mobile home park where it's just all one big piece of property and you've just got you're renting sort of a little spot of land and then the house, so.
And that's in the RM.
That's the purple area that's on there.
And that's the purple area on the map there that we just talked about, so.
So the way it's set up is every, for the lots that are out there, there'll be up to one mobile home per lot.
Per lot, right.
Break it down.
And then the second part of that was, in my initial presentation, we have in here 5,000 square feet per unit for a mobile home, and the request was to up that to a minimum of 8,000 square feet. So it would make it a bigger lot.
And that number was based off of what your former zoning ordinance had for mobile home areas, was an 8,000 square foot lot.
Right, and so we would probably, the other thing that we could do with that is, usually I think of these in terms of you need at least 100 feet in depth for a lot. So if you're going to do an 8,000 square foot lot, I would probably also change the minimum lot width to 80 feet wide. So you'd have 80 feet wide by at least 100 feet deep in order to do a lot. So we don't have to do that, but.
Maybe the trailers lengthwise that way, the manufactured home.
The longest is probably what, like 64?
I am not sure.
So then you got some land on your side too. It's just not just.
Right, so I mean, if you did, so if it's a 64-foot wide, call it wide building, and you have 8 feet side yard setback per side, so that gets you to the 80 feet, so.
But you also have your setbacks on there too, so even if it did, get that far, you would still have to maintain a 8-foot, are we going to keep that on there? We're going to
What
increase
is that,
that.
8 foot on each side?
8 foot on each side, 10 foot in the back, and then 15 foot on the front.
Right.
Yeah.
What we're trying to prevent, Teresa, is them coming in and making a park.
Yeah, right.
Don't want that.
So any thoughts or concerns about those changes? All right, so let's move on to,
Let's come back for a second. The
Okay.
lot width at building line,
so I would probably move that to 80 feet, because that would give you, if you have a 64-foot wide building and 8-foot setbacks on each side, that gets you to the 80 feet as a minimum. And so you'd end up with an 80-foot wide by 100-foot depth building lot.
you'd have to
At
do
a
90,
minimum.
you'd have to do 96 on there.
Well, 64 and 16.
We were just looking it up, and is it 80 feet?
It says up to 80 feet long.
The mobile homes can be up to 80 feet in length on there. But if you want it to
But
be
this is a
64
minimum, I mean, so
Yeah.
they could put it in the other way, or they would
yeah.
just have, they would just have to
Just make
have a
it
wider
work.
lot than that. So these are just minimums that they would have to have for that,
Sure.
so. All right, so if we go to page 4-42, these are more of the individual standards for mobile homes when you actually get into how they go on the property. And so there are 3 spots in there where we referenced that they were allowed in R20, and we were going to strike that. So there's 3 spots in that. It's section 4-5.15, the manufactured housing standards. And so you'd have those 3 spots on that page where you would strike that. So it would just be allowed in the residential agricultural, because basically like a farm type operation, or the residential mobile manufactured housing district would be the only place that they would be allowed to go inside the town limits. And then on 4-15, so at the bottom of that page, same page. So right now it says just basically that all manufactured housing must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's installation manual. In the absence of the manual, the home must be installed in accordance with, let's see. And then we're going to add to that no mobile home or manufactured housing unit shall be permitted for use and placement in the town which was constructed more than 10 years prior to the application for permit, unless the owner presents evidence satisfactory to the permitting agent that the unit has been brought to current HUD or International Building Code requirements and was manufactured after June 15, 1976. So don't let the 76 number throw you off there. That's the original HUD code and has been revised multiple times since then, including in 2024. So what this is saying is, it's got to be no older than 10 years old, or they show proof that it's been brought up to the most current standard, building code standard. And so, and then the main difference with, so mobile homes and manufactured homes meet the HUD code, which is, sort of call it this level of building code. Your standard site-built house meets the International Building Code series, and that building code is a higher building code. And so they would have the option to bring it up to that code or the most recent HUD code that deals specifically with manufactured housing, so. Either or. So either way, you're getting a product that is a better product than what it could be, right? So we would just add that language to that section. Any questions about those changes?
So you're taking out the R20 in the 4-5?
Right, at the last meeting, we had already agreed to take that out as a permitted use in the R20, so this is just sort of housekeeping, making sure I take it out,
Okay.
so there's no confusion in the different references, so.
Need a motion? Consider second reading of ordinance 2025-04, adopt the new zoning ordinance.
Based on
We
these,
talked about 176.
based on these changes.
What?
I should make sure we do the reading based on the updated changes.
Yeah.
And it's for the map and for the ordinance document.
Do you want the document and map done separate, or can we do it
Do we-
together?
You can do them together. You can choose, you can do it either way, but you can do them together, so.
So did we talk about number 4? Did we go over that? The annexed property on US 176?
That's a
Is that the
different,
one, the
it's a
gray
different
area?
agenda item.
So the next property on 176 is here.
Oh, no, not that one. Okay. No, I was talking about the one in between the red that we added. Is that in another section?
So,
No, the gray. The gray in between, yes,
over here.
yes. Because was that something I wanted to talk about that. Is that on another?
I've not brought any changes for that, so if you have questions or concerns about
Is
that.
that in A? Is that in A? Because I know we had, or y'all did, I didn't, had voted to add this in.
The light industrial, right,
Yes, that was added the last meeting to change from the light, in the light industrial, it allows, I think we added back in the,
Yeah, but that was the first reading, right?
that was done in the first reading.
Okay, we ain't done this, is that included in this A right here?
Yes, because that was already updated, so everything that was done at the last meeting was pulled forward, and then what he's provided tonight is added in on this reading, and so once you approve, it's going to bring everything forward.
Right, well, I had some questions about that. That's why we didn't discuss it, we just kind of went right over it. That's why I was asking, because he discussed these other things, but we went over that. No, because I know y'all didn't, because I didn't. So I want to know what the difference is, because it was already in here to have light industrial.
Yes.
And I did read the difference in, heavy and light. So why did we vote to add this in?
So at the planning commission, before it came to you, the planning commission had it set up so that it would just be warehousing. It would not be,
Industrial in here, what page is that?
what I have provided you is what was, let's see.
I'm just trying to find out what the difference is.
We added-
Had to be added in when it pretty much,
We added assembly and manufacturing.
right, so basically you had a light industrial district that did not allow light manufacturing and production, because the planning commission wanted to take that out, and so the council said they wanted to add that back in. And so that's,
I'm just trying to make clear, what is the difference in manufacturing and industrial? I want to know the clear difference.
No, that's, the difference is not between those two things. That's the same thing. The difference is,
Well, if
instead
it's
of
the
just
same
having,
thing, that's what
I'm going
I'm
to try to
trying to
answer,
think.
I'm going to try to answer your question.
Manufacturing is industrial.
Yes, so they wanted just warehousing and distribution. We wanted also manufacturing, so we added that. They're both under industrial.
Yeah, light industrial in here, it talks about permitted uses, and it gives all these things about what's permitted in 3-19.2.
right, but they had taken out one permitted use, which was light manufacturing and production.
So what does light manufacturing mean?
So what I provided the last time was this sheet here, which had some examples. So think of it as sort of a scale issue.
This
So,
is industrial, and I understand that industrial and manufacturing are two different.
well, they're the same thing, it's just a sense of scale. So you have heavy industrial or heavy manufacturing, and light industrial or light manufacturing. So heavy industrial, again, is bigger ticket things like the quarry, shipbuilding, steel production, chemicals, construction,
It's kind of like how
aerospace, so much bigger, much more heavy-duty, much more intensive uses. So whereas the examples of the light industrial or light manufacturing are like testing labs, data processing, contractor offices, machine shops,
like a big photocopying company, something like that. So a lot less impactful than you would have under the heavy industrial or heavy manufacturing. So you use, in this case, you're going to use manufacturing and industrial interchangeably. And for these purposes, they're the same thing.
Industrial is just a category.
How intensive a use you can have in either of those districts.
Yeah, but what I'm still not understanding is if they're interchangeable, I don't understand what the difference is adding the manufacturing
No,
part
industrial is
back
just a
in there.
group. It's like an umbrella over multiple different things. Manufacturing was taken out of the group.
So you've got,
What does manufacturing allow you to do? Production?
Yes.
Production?
Make-
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
Yes.
I'm just giving
Yep.
I want to know specific.
industrial is your big top.
The reason why is because that backs up to Briarwood.
Yes.
Which is a neighborhood.
Yes.
Just right over, not even where I live, over there across the street.
Yes.
Okay, so, I mean, we have a quiet area over there.
Yes.
You know, it's not that we want to be hearing noise and, you know, horns going off for shift changes or this or that, you know, or whatever. So that's what I'm trying to find it out. And also, too, is there a buffer? Is there a buffer from the road if some kind of, and is it one of those huge block buildings that you see that's littered down through I-85? I mean, who wants to ride down 176 and see that? I mean, Elaine took the time to beautify our strip from Highway 9 to 150, you know, and who wants to like knock down all those trees and put in some big block building, you know, that you can see and it just, I mean, the environment and everything else. And then plus, like I say, you know, is there a buffer that doesn't allow it to run, you know, right up to somebody's backyard?
Right. And so your new ordinance does have landscaping requirements, and they're based on the existing use and the new use. And so if you have if you have an existing single-family house and you have a new single-family house coming in, that's no impact, so they don't have to do anything. If you have industrial that comes in next to single family, they have to do berms, they have to do tree plantings, there's some width issues in there about how much room you have to have, there's setback requirements, where, you know, the building's not gonna be right up against that back property line, and so there's a planted buffer that would be placed back there. Honestly, these parcels are not huge parcels, and so I don't know that you're gonna get any large manufacturer not going to come to this property because there's not enough land for them to do a large building, parking, everything that they would have to do. A third of it has to be green space at a minimum. I think it's 65% maximum impervious surface area, so that's, impervious surface would be anything that's under the building or paving. And so you have buffers, you have to have at least a third of it would have to be green space. Again, the properties are not that big. You're not going to get some huge industrial use on there. It'll probably be some sort of small manufacturing or, Patrick's familiar with this because from Anderson, we had a print shop, a commercial printer called the Printer in Anderson, something like that. No noise outside the building, small scale, not a lot of employees, no impact on the surrounding neighborhood. So it'll be much lower scale, lower intensity. Your new ordinance has those extra buffers in there, so that should, hopefully that would be enough to protect the neighborhood around there, so.
Well, that's what I'm mostly concerned about because, I mean, we really just don't want to be hearing, you know, lots of noise and, you know, and
Right.
There's a decibel requirement. It's much more stringent in the light industrial versus the heavy industrial, so that you have a sound decibel limit, I believe, that's under the industrial 1 on there, or light industrial. Also, between the properties, they have to have what's called an L4 high wall landscaping, which includes a 6-foot high masonry wall along the interior side of the landscaped area, 1 tree per linear feet of wall, 4 high shrubs per 30 linear feet of wall, and enough ground cover plants to fully cover the remainder of the landscaped area. So it's one of the most landscaping requirements when they put something like that between that and a residential property.
And the other thing is, when you look at the prohibited uses for that section, no offensive or obnoxious operation, which causes noxious or offensive dust, fumes, gas, noise, odor, smoke, or vibration, which substantially interferes with other lawful uses. It has other things that are, basically anything that's not listed is not allowed, but it lists other things just to sort of accentuate the point that they're not listed, so.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about how it's gonna look, because it's really, to me, it's just gonna be something that just really doesn't fit there to begin with. I mean, we got that beautification like we do, and then you see something over there to the left, and I know someone's like, well, Jonesville has it, and you just have, well, those buildings are miles outside their town. They're not butted up to a neighborhood, so.
But could it also be that it may not even happen?
Right.
And it may be like a subdivision put there, right? Could be that. Okay.
Motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2025-04 to adopt the new zoning ordinance with the proposed edits, both text and map.
Motion made to, second reading, consider second reading of ordinance 2025-04, adopt the new zoning ordinance with the edits and map adjustments. Need a second.
Awesome.
Motion made and seconded to second reading ordinance 2025. All in favor? All opposed?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Discuss the proposed annual budget, town packet.
But before we go on, I just want to make sure the COG's going to most likely put together a final packet for all the council members, as well as some packets for town hall. And if you can provide us a copy of that so we can put it on our website. And we'll also need to make multiple copies for our Board of Zoning Appeals and our Planning Commission, so everybody has copies of that, and we'll keep some at town hall for any residents that want to look at them as well.
Yes, we'll give you some hard copies, some, PDF copies, so you can post them on the website of both the maps and the ordinance document itself. And we'll give you 2 large copies of the map to display. So, and I know you have other annexations, but we can work with you on adding those, any annexations moving forward as well to get those on the map.
You've got the shape file or something like that for us. Excellent.
Yep.
Discuss the proposed FY 2026 annual budget.
So one thing I ended up doing with this proposal on here is it has a little bit more information than what y'all have had in the past. And it happened to be that, as y'all may remember, I'm currently going through my master's degree at Clemson and currently taking a financial management course. And part of that course was to put together a budget packet for them. So I figured I'd go ahead and just use that same thing for you guys. So it's a little bit more information than y'all normally have, but it's something that I think the town may start doing moving forward. So there's information that includes population trends, historical fund balance, and then forecasted amounts over the next 2 years, as well as information on your property tax revenue and forecast, business license revenue, information on the revenue sources, percentage of where the expenditures are going. My apologies, it's FY 2024's expenditures list that's on there. Let me pull some of that up. So there's your the population trend for up through 24, 25, and where it's estimated to go through the end of year and next year. Historical fund balance has been mentioned in your audit that the town has a very nice size fund balance that's there. tax revenue, everything that y'all have brought in from 2017 all the way through this year, and an estimate of where it would be moving forward. The top line is the higher side of the estimate, the green line is the lower side of the estimate, and then the orange line in the middle is most likely it's a median kind of on there. Then you've also got expenditures based on percentage on there, and then revenues, the various revenue sources that come in for the town. Last but not least on this particular section is I ended up doing a chart that shows off all the different staff and the flow chart of all the employees for the town. And then we'll go into, so this is the proposed budget for FY '26. So this is the proposed revenue to come in, and as well as your expenses. If y'all have any particular questions, I can go through that with you.
Cody, on the revenue, on the town building permits, we dropped down from the 60s down to 18,000.
So the way things have been done in the past when we were with RCI is the town collected 100% of all the building permits, and then we paid a portion, 80% to RCI. The way it's being done now is Susie and I is handling it 100%. So they take care of all the payments 100%. That was one of the things that council wanted to see happen, is less work for town staff.
Right.
And so at the end of the month, they provide us a list of all the permits for the entire month, and then our 20% cut for the town, and they write that check to the town. So you're not going to see the big gross amount, you're just going to see the net amount.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to address, and I talked with Patrick about this, some of the wording in here shows, well, not just the wording, the actual budget shows kind of an uneven salary increase. And that jumped out at me a little bit, because it shows all non-police employees getting a higher raise this year than police. And there's reasons for that. Last year, the police got a higher raise, and we're constantly analyzing market trends for positions and where things need to be. And I just want to say publicly, even if it's not possible that we just do a across-the-board every year increase for everyone, I want the PD to know that we're still committed to getting them, where they need to be. I don't know if I speak for anyone else, definitely myself, when I say, PD's been running so smoothly and has turned into such a professional organization. It's been out of mind for me. So out of sight, out of mind. I kind of forget that we still have work there to do. Chief Oz has built a amazing department from the ground up, but we're not done. I'm hoping that this council commits to revisiting next year, or as soon as we can, some improvements we still have to make with pay, with personnel. Currently, we're fully staffed. We've got new equipment, new vehicles, a really well-oiled machine there, but we're still behind. We're behind everywhere as far as pet compensation. We're just a small town, and that's how it is. We've got everyone needs a pay increase. We're on the low end or completely outside of the margins of other comparable towns, and we know that. So hopefully next year we can kind of shift the focus back, and maybe everyone's been focused on PD. I know 2 years ago that was all we could talk about. You know, we lost our PD, we had to get a new chief and rebuild, and that was a huge priority. And now that things are going well, it may have slipped in at least my mind. So I just want to say that out loud. I know the numbers are tight and we may not be able to do anything about that this year.
The town's got some new projects that are proposed, some of them that are moving forward, Cloth Room, the Riverbend Quarry. Once we start seeing work done out there, there'll be additional revenues that'll be coming in, tax revenues coming in, building permits. We're seeing a lot more growth lately than we have in a long time. And when the town realizes that in terms of assessed value and more revenue coming in, I definitely want to add more officers. We currently have 1 officer per shift. We need to work towards having 2 officers per shift. It's a safety issue. If something happens or one of our officers ends up having to take someone to jail, there's a time where you're out an officer in the town. Now we work really well with Spartanburg County, and they cover us during those times. Spartanburg County has been amazing to the town of Packlet during the first, I believe it was back in the fall of 22 and into 23 when we lost the police department. But yes, I talk to Chief Halls often about this, and that is the direction that we want to go, is to growing the department and taking care of our officers. Now, one thing that's just an unfortunate situation is that when the town increases our pay to match some of the other places, then they increase their pay to stand out a little bit further. And then we get back and forth into a race. And, you know, unfortunately, the town of Packlet does not have the revenue to be able to constantly go back and forth. Now, one thing that, at least that I see, and from talking to some of the guys out there, is they aren't seeing a lot of the action, the negative action, that you would see in a much bigger town, or having to cover the entire county, which is good, and knock on wood, we haven't seen those kind of major stuff happening around here. But yes, it is a push for me, and from talking to the other officers, that's what they're looking for, is additional officers on duty that would help them out. And that's the direction that I would like for us to work toward over the next 2 to 3 years as revenues, as additional revenues come into the town to support that.
I want to just follow up and say I'm committed to not raising taxes. That's why it's so important that we are pro-business, we bring in industrial, high tax-paying entities so that it doesn't fall on residents. Someone has to pay for that. I'd like the residents to not pay for it. So we have to be, in order for all this to work, to keep all the balls in the air, we have to continually be looking for revenue streams that allow us to grow or even maintain without increasing our
Millage.
I'm sorry?
Without having to increase the millage rate.
Millage, right. And also, let's keep in mind, our chief took a pay cut to come here and you know, build this department from scratch. He's still, I believe, taking a pay cut. So we've got to remedy that. He's been
This is not Myrtle Beach.
pretty loyal to the town. Well, he came from USC, I believe, not Myrtle Beach.
See, but when you start saying that he took that pay cut willingly. And I'm all for giving people what they're worth paying, but we can't do it at the expense of running out of money. We have to make sure the money is there to cover it long-term.
Right.
You know, so that's my only fear with that. If we choose to do that, we have to make sure the money is going to consistently be there.
Right.
You know, we can't give pay increases and then struggle to have to keep it in place. And so, Patrick, if we choose to do that in the future, we're just gonna have to make sure that money is coming in. I don't have a problem, but I don't want to place a strain either. So,
It's just my opinion here, but it seems, based on my experience with y'all for the last 3 years, is there's not an interest in increasing franchise fees or increasing millage rates on there. So the only other way to increase revenue for the town is to increase value, which means that this place is a desirable place to live. We are pro-growth when that comes up, and potentially annexation into the town.
I agree. All the beautification projects we've got in the works, that's all with that in mind, is that we need to be a place that people come and spend their money so that we can pay our people and keep the services alive without just raising taxes. We could stay a sleepy town and continue to raise taxes as inflation, trudges on, or we can make the town more desirable to outsiders and to business, and that's the route I'm committed to go.
And keep in mind, pro-growth does not mean that you lose what makes Packlet Packlet. I think you still need to be very careful that you are retaining your small town charm, because I think that's a valuable thing here, and if once you lose that, then you end up being some other areas in Spartanburg County that are not desirable to live in.
Right.
So I think that's very being cognizant and trying to make sure that you keep that small town charm while growing, and I use the word sustainable, that makes sense for the community, that makes sense for the existing residents as well as future residents.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because bigger is not always better.
Yes.
Because there are several people that have moved to Packlet from Boiling Springs, from what it started out as to what it is now. They like the
Yes.
small town charm. And if we outgrow ourselves, like you said, it doesn't become that anymore. It's not small town charm. And to me, it's really all about, how many businesses we can pack in here, how many people we can pack in here to get the revenue that we want to pay this over here. It shouldn't be about that. It should be making Packlet, beautiful, what we have with Packlet already. Make it beautiful, make it what it is, and you'll draw those people. A slower growing is better than, just bring them in here all of a sudden, like that.
Absolutely.
And what's in the plan? We have, with some of the houses in the place on the corner of 150 and number 9 there, we can do all those things. And I think we need to concentrate on doing that, and the people will come.
Yes.
Slowly. We don't need to try to bring them in here so fast. I think it's just too much. Like I said, bigger is not always better.
yeah.
You lose your charm.
The difference between the town of Packlet and Boiling Springs is the town of Packlet is a municipality.
Yeah, and like I said, my next door neighbor, and Mr. Williams over there, he's spoken to them before, and that's what they came here for, is the quietness, the calmness, and I've heard people say, and I even, and you there too, Mr. Kay, that it's just too quiet here, but that's what people want here. They like the quietness. If I want all the hustle and bustle and the living on top of each other, I'm going to go to Spartanburg. But I'm going to work in Spartanburg, or I'm going to work in Union, I'm going to work and then I'm going to come home, and it's going to be nice and quiet in my little neighborhood, and I'm going to hear children playing and dogs barking. That's what I want. And what people send in, and when we ask, what do you want to see in Packlet? That's what they want. Small town charm. Small town charm.
Motion to consider first reading ordinance.
One other thing I wanted to bring to your attention, just to look through here, is, so part of my project was to put together a capital improvement plan So at the very end of your packet on there, there's some information where everything that y'all have identified that y'all have ever wanted to do in terms of large projects, it's all included in that. It would be nice if y'all included this as part of your approval process. If you're not ready for that, that's perfectly fine. We can talk about it at the next meeting or just do the budget on there. But at least I wanted to put all this stuff to get you thinking about investments that the town will need to make over the next several years.
We'll just wait till next meeting.
Mind if I make my motion then?
You can keep on.
Motion to approve on first reading the adoption of the fiscal year 2026 annual budget.
What?
First reading of the ordinance 2020-06 to adopt the fiscal year 2026 annual budget.
Been here, okay.
Need a second?
Now, this is excluding the section on the capital improvement.
Right. Yes, it is. It's excluding that, this section.
I mean, if y'all want to go ahead and include that, you can. It adopts, that's the direction that y'all want to move forward on. That's the, in terms of some of the projects that are coming up. It does not obligate you to any of those projects. It just identifies those are projects that you are putting aside. So I remember last year that the town of Packlet put together a capital fund balance. So these are some of the projects that would potentially come from that. This is what I can look at, and so every year, based on funding, based on debt service, that I can propose those to council.
So
Talking about a 10-year program there, I mean, it's,
I don't have a problem with the plan. I like what you did here. It's a lot of work. I don't think it's necessarily the budget, but let's get the budget approved. And
Sure.
if you want to make this an agenda item, make it something official, I'm fine with that.
yeah,
Let's just get through this budget.
okay.
Or we could attach it to second reading, and I'm fine with that.
The first reading, yeah, we have a motion for the first reading of 2025-06, adoption of the fiscal year 2026 annual budget for town of Packlet. Need a second.
I second it.
You've already seconded it already. You already have
Do what?
Rick done
I
seconded
second.
one.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah. This
My hearing
is-
aid wasn't up,
this
I
is
guess.
second.
Okay, all right, so, all in favor? All opposed? Okay,
At your next council meeting, there'll be a public hearing, and then the second reading.
yep. The new business, consider the first reading of ordinance 2025-06, annex into the town of Packlet, South Carolina property located 600 Zion Church Road with tax map number 3-30-00-014.03.
I make that motion.
Where's that at?
Number
On the back.
11.
Oh,
No, I
where's
was
that?
looking at the back.
Zion Hill Road. Over there. You know where Stanley lived?
Yes.
That's Zion Hill Road.
Okay. Almost in.
It's out, I believe that's Sutton Road. You turn right onto Zion Church Road.
Yeah,
You can also reach it from Quarry
Yeah.
to go across there.
yeah.
It's right around, it's just after, I think there's there's B&B, and it's a little bit further past B&B.
I didn't have time to go through it.
I second the approval of annexing.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Consider the contract of Civic Plus for ordinance recodification.
This is something that y'all had considered about 6-8 months ago, and we ended up tabling it to wait until the zoning ordinance was done. And now the zoning ordinance is completed, that you go through this process. Now, it is expensive on the front end, but and what that cost is that over an 18-month period of time, that they go through our entire ordinance, the municipal ordinance, the zoning ordinance, and they cross-reference it with each other, the state and the federal government, to verify that it is all correct and it doesn't conflict with any state or federal laws that are out there. And then they codify it, which puts it into the language and the style of your Packlet municipal ordinance. There's been multiple changes that have been done in the last 3 years, and this puts all of it together, and then it puts it online. And then the public, anybody who wants to see the most updated copy of our entire municipal code can see it.
When you say expensive on the front end, what are you talking about?
If you look on the price on there, I believe the total price is around $8,900. Now, what I've worked with them on is being able to divide that up into 3 separate payments, or actually it'll be 4 total payments, but it'll be taken over the course of 3 fiscal years. So you would pay for some of it in this fiscal year, some of it in FY '26, and the last portion in FY '27, to be able to split it up all the way through.
And at the same time doing those renewables, is that renewable whenever you have to do one?
So every year, you would pay that renewable price. There is one price to host it on their website, and the other price on there is that every time that y'all pass a new ordinance or change something in your zoning ordinance or anything, I just send that to them, and they codify it, they cross-reference it, and then they put it into the entire code.
So is this like a retainer? I mean, not a retainer, but so it's money will it pay for that, or that has to be paid every time that it's done?
So the town pays the $1,750 on there. I believe $450 of that is to host it on their site.
Right.
The rest of those funds per year is that, I believe it's at least 4 or 5 times a year. So every month, every time that y'all pass a new ordinance, I send it to them.
Yeah.
And they put it on their website as a footnote. And then I believe it's 4 times a year, they will go through and pull all those footnotes, cross-reference them with everything that's in the ordinance already, as well as state laws, and then they will codify it, put it into that style, and it'll be part of the entire thing.
Okay, so
And
that's
that's-
part of the annual recurring service?
Correct.
Okay, it's already cost into the...
So if you do 100 new ordinances, or if you do 3 new ordinances, it's going to be the same price.
Okay.
All right, was the cost of this, was it included in the budget that we just approved the first reading?
Yes.
And where is this price of this, where is it going to be covered from? Out of the general budget, or?
It'll just, for this year, it'll just be out of your general fund, just to cover it, because I didn't have it previously set up on there.
It was already in the 25 or 26.
Yes, it'll be under, it'll be within the 26 budget, yes.
Be nice if ACOG provided this with
I'll make a motion to approve
service.
contract with Civic Plus.
Motion made to accept the contract with, what is it? Sorry.
What was
Civic
that under?
Plus.
Civic
New
Plus.
business B. Oh,
No, I was looking for it in the budget.
General.
It's not specifically put in there, it'll just be covered under either a miscellaneous or computer technical kind of stuff, but it'll be part of that.
Okay, motion made to accept the contract with Civic Plus, the ordinance recodification. Excuse me. Need a second.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Consider Resolution 2025-06 to adopt a petty cash policy for the town of Packard.
This is something that the town has not previously had, but believe it needs. And so the way this will end up being done is it's just going to be, it's going to be a lot of checks and balances to make sure that the cash that we do have on hand is regularly checked, regularly audited, and then we're going to reduce the amount that we have been keeping in our town safe here.
Motion to approve resolution to adopt petty cash policy for the town of Packard.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Consider the Resolution 2025-07, changing the schedule of the Planning Commission and Board Zoning Appeals meeting.
When council had previously pushed this up a week, I don't think it was considered that when this happens, it now takes 3 months for a rezoning to take place. And for a potential developer or a property owner wanting to see something, happen, if we make it more like 2 months instead of 3 months, it just speeds up that process that's on there.
Motion to approve resolution 2025-07, changing the schedule of the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals meetings.
I second.
Motion made and second to approve the 2025-07, changing the schedule of Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.
So right now they meet after our council meeting.
Correct.
So how does that slow it up?
So if they meet after your council meeting and they pass something, then there's a month that goes by to the first reading, and then there's another month that goes by for the second reading.
Before it comes to us.
So if it's on the same week, so if you end up having on Monday your zoning or your planning commission meeting, and then on Thursday you have your first reading, then you wait till the next month for your second reading.
So it's 2 months instead of 3.
Does that give us too little time to?
You already have to have 2 readings anyway, so you'll end up, as soon as I know something's coming up or maybe coming up, I'll make sure to send something out to you so you know. And you're welcome to attend the planning commission meetings, and actually they'll be live streamed anyway. But you'll still have, so with everything, you still have 2 readings. So you still have 2 months or 2 meetings to approve this stuff. This just shortens some of the time on there. So as the town starts progressing and changing and seeing things happen, that we aren't holding up a potential investor or developer longer than they need to be.
This is the schedule we had up for forever until a couple months ago. We changed it and didn't quite understand the impact it was going to have. So we're just going back to the original schedule.
But sometimes, I feel rushed on those things, and just like, make it sit down.
And if y'all feel rushed, you can always table it to another meeting. But this way, you couldn't even do, so if there was something that everybody was all on board, it doesn't matter, it's still gonna take you 3 months to go through it. This way, if something comes up and you say, listen, I want to be given some more time, you can table it, and then you can do that.
Okay.
Also, with a rezoning, you would have a public hearing as well, so.
Do you have a motion and a second? Any questions? Any other questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. All right, any comments? Mr. Pickle?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I have a commercial. District 4's only festival is coming up this Saturday, Founder's Day, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you live in District 4 Packlet, come out to Main Street. All of Packlet should come, but this is like our end of town, so let's make it as big as Riverfest.
Can I add something to that?
No, yes,
Yes.
what's that?
As part of Founder's Day, so this is 129 years of the town, we wanted to see some more history being there and not just be a festival. And so one thing that's been great, and Ms. Gilbert's been very instrumental in setting this up, is we'll have loom demonstrations. And so we've partnered with the Spartanburg Library System, and they're bringing a loom out on site so that some of the young folk who may not know what a loom is, can see one, and then on top of that, we're gonna have a loom craft. So children can come and actually weave things to be made, and bookmarks, pop holders. So there's some history that's involved. The town was built on weaving and cloth, and we're bringing that back.
We'll also have food and bands and all that slightly more fun stuff, in my opinion. This Saturday.
It'll be an opportunity for you to meet all of some of the newer officers who have come on board as well, because all of them will be there this weekend.
There's also a caricature artist that's going to be there who will draw your caricature drawing on like paper with our Founders Day logo on it. So when people take those home, they have the Founders Day logo, and so like that's a souvenir of where they got it from. It's pretty cool. And she's doing that for free for the community.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you for all your work on that, Jennifer. It's gonna be a good day.
Took a lot of help from
Ms. Teresa, you have anything? How about you?
Now, I want to thank Jennifer for being with us tonight, and thank her for all the help that she does for all of our events. She does a great job. I appreciate that. Make a motion with adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, adjourn, all in favor?